Welcome to In the Blue. I am your ghost. I am your host, Cory Frogley. God love live broadcast. God love live broadcast. But I've got a co-host with me, Dr. Scott Frogley, and yes, you'll notice we have the same last names because we are brothers from the same mother. And excited to
too.
Yeah, that is kind of embarrassing. I was hoping the audience didn't notice that today, but thanks. We're missing one of our co-hosts, Joseph Stith. He is on the road and unfortunately couldn't be with us, but looking forward to having him again back with us in the future. Our topic today is a vital one, and it applies to every practice listening today. Whether you're a single practice just starting up, whether you're a integrated practice, a dental multi-specialist practice, or whether you have 20 locations. This is a marketing topic that you need to know because it's about the yo-yo effect. The effect of you got big growth of new patients and you're processing those and then you see a crash. And then you get real focused on marketing again and you see a big growth and then you lose focus and it's just that whole cycle of ups and downs and ups and downs. That can be really frustrating to a practice. We want to see sustainable growth. And remember, BlueIQ is all about giving you tools of scalability. And those are the principles we're going to cover today and some very key secrets. You've got Dr. Scott Frogley, who runs a multi-million-dollar practice and isn't in that practice very often anymore. So he's got couple decades and some change of experience to share with us today. So we've got some great topics today. So before we set the stage, Scott, because I know some of the key things that you want to share with us is especially in your practice, you guys have done an outstanding job of really focusing on the patient experience. And I want to connect that then into the different ways to harvest new patients. So let's start with that, if you don't mind, is the patient experience. What do you mean by creating the ultimate patient experience?
Well, anybody that's run a successful practice, I think they realize, as you were kind of introducing the topic, really needs to realize, well, most of those that are doing it successfully realize it, but those that are trying to grow their practice from the start, or they're trying to grow multiple practices, the key is marketing. It's the consistent new patient flow. And if you can tackle that thing right there, then you've got your foot in the door and you're moving. Without new patients, you can't sell to them. If you can't sell to them, you can't provide services. And so that's just so critical and so key to get your head around great marketing. The patient experience is really where it starts, whether it's a new clinic again, or whether you're trying to grow multiple practices. When patients enter your door, and we're trying to look at how can we attract more new patients, their experience is going to determine whether they refer to you or not. One of the ways I look at it, there's really three types of customer experiences when they walk into your facility, whether it's a dental or a chiropractic or a medical, whatever type of business you're running. There's three patient experiences. One of them is going to be they walk in and they just have a really bad experience. I mean, they just don't, they wait, nobody's paying attention to them, they don't get what they're expected, and they leave there upset. The second patient experience is they walk in, they have expectations, and you know what, those expectations were met. It wasn't a bad experience, but it didn't blow them away. And so they walk out of there, and that's an experience that a lot of people have. In fact, that's probably very, very common. Then the third type of an experience is an exceptional experience where they walk in, they don't wait. They're waited on. The customer service blows them away. Your staff is right there greeting them on top of everything, offers them maybe a drink or something that they right there at the beginning, and they go through the experience. They walk out of your office going, my gosh, that was unbelievable. And the bottom line is two types of experiences are going to be spoken about by those patients. They're going to speak about, and they're going to tell everybody about the bad experience, and you don't want that. You don't want that. It's the worst PR you're ever going to have. And they're going to talk about the exceptional experience. They're going to go tell everybody about it. My gosh, that was incredible. Think about restaurants you go to where it just blows you away. I'm telling everybody, you got to go eat at this restaurant. Well, you got to go to this dentist, or you got to go to this chiropractor. But if you're just providing an experience that they expected to get, they don't talk. They're not going to refer to you, and they're not going to help you build from within inside. So To me, it all starts with, first of all, to provide a great customer experience, you got to have great staff. And that's a whole other topic that we've touched on in the past. But having a clear mission, having a clear vision, and your staff sharing in that. If your staff doesn't share in your mission and your vision, they're not going to provide the customer experience to help you grow. So that to me is one of the biggest key as we start here. Getting a great team, building that team, and then you have to start training them really to give that incredible customer experience from the moment they walk in the door. You want to blow those patients' mind when they walk in.
I love it. I love it. And that's what we see. I mean, even on social media, you get people coming in posting comments on, your reviews, and it's nothing worse than a big black eye because we just didn't meet that customer expectation. And you mentioned about building teams and having incredible teams. And again, that's what BlueIQ is all about, is helping to nurture and culture that. So I want to talk for a minute about a little bit different way to run your teams. And as we all know, we only have so much energy. We talk about time management, but we also have to be very aware of energy management. And in some of these practices, we dump all of the marketing onto one team member and expect them to just handle it, to drive everything. And whether they're outsourcing some of the external marketing or not, what we have to realize is that there's two sources of patients. And again, this is very obvious. There's the outside of your practice that comes from digital marketing, that comes from specialty referrals, and then we have the inside new patients are coming from, as Dr. Scott was just sharing, that referral source within our own consumer base. And then a lot of us with really large patient databases, it's nurturing those and getting them to come back in and recare and coming back for a new experience that they may not have had from that last experience. And so in a month, we talk about being focused on systems that drive both flows from new patients. And so it's really important that the team gets laser focused on driving and events that are external, whether that's social media event or a Facebook group that you begin to nurture and have conversations. Let patients come in and be part of those conversations. That you're nurturing those. Too many digital campaigns that I see out there, you're just putting an ad that leads to a CTA, and that CTA is too big of a step. Like, come right into the practice, come in maybe a workshop or maybe right in for a new patient exam. And what we're missing is the green phase of giving them valuable information even before they come into the practice, and allow them to be part of the conversation even before they come into the practice. And that conversation can be a phone call, can be a live chat, can be different things. Too few practices have live chat opportunities on their practice websites. And so they get laser focused on an external event that they can drive. And that can be one or two, depending on the bandwidth of the practice. And then an internal event that they can shift focus and be very focused, their energy that they're managing, being focused on that. Because I see the yo-yo effect in these practices where they're frustrated because they don't have enough new patients. So they throw a bunch of money and a tremendous amount of energy at driving new patients. And remember that the downstream team from the marketing team is the exam and case acceptance team. So here the exam and case acceptance team is getting buried with all these new patients, and they're in the process now of processing those and doing their diagnosis and their prescription for treatment. And there's a ton of energy that goes into that. And so that team, if there's a disconnect between the marketing and the exam and case acceptance team, the exam and case acceptance team is pushing back on the marketing team energetically because they're so buried. And then marketing, whether they're using the same systems or not, energy matters. Energy creates flows. And if we're putting a block in that energy, we see the marketing effectiveness definitely drop. And then we had the best month ever because we processed all of those leads and new patients. But then the next month we have this crash. Where's all my new patients? Mm-hmm. And it's the marketing team that was like, well, we're still doing the same systems, but we're not seeing the same effect. And it's that cohesive glue that training has to come together. And Scott, what do you do in your practice to make sure that the marketing team and the exam and case acceptance team are connected and on the same page and communicating and energetically resonating at the same frequency?
Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to know our numbers. We have to have the data to know what we can handle and really what are we trying to accomplish. So I know for a fact if I market and I can go put an ad out on Facebook and I get so many leads, those, if I get 100 leads, I can get 75 to come into the office, 75 of them will convert to 40. You got to know the numbers. I know that what our goals or visions in our clinic is, and if we want to be at a certain volume and actually bring in a certain amount of revenue, there's a certain amount of new patients that we have to see each week to sustain that, to sustain the practice. Like everything, there's ebb and flows. We go up and we go down, but it's really trying to keep that consistency, those consistent numbers. I know what our conversion ratios are. So when a new patient comes into our clinic, I know what my sales team, really what they're able to do. And then to me, I try to train them all together. It's that team training that's so critical. So each one knows exactly their piece in the upstream and downstream of what's happening, and then training them as a team so that they can see what each other is doing and they understand the handoff. And they understand that if they're not doing their job, not only does it affect them, but it affects the person upstream from them and vice versa. So it's team training. It's knowing the data points. It's knowing the numbers. It's knowing the conversion ratios. If you don't have that data, that's what we always say, data is the language of business. And without that data, you go through those high times and low times because, like you said, it's energy based. You get a lot of energy, you market, you drive all these new patients in, you might not have the staff to handle it, they crash the stat, you get frustrated, so you don't market as hard next time, or you hire too many staff and you didn't market as hard, and now you have too many employees in there, and you're going through that cycle that you were talking about. Great point. All together, team training is so critical. Everybody needs to know what each other is doing. That's huge.
I think a way to cohesively bring that together is twice a year. I think every practice, I don't care what kind of practice you are, every practice should take their marketing and their exam and case acceptance team and have one person all together go through the new patient experience. Wow. Everybody watch it. Look at what it takes to get into the practice. Where are our barriers? Where are our limiting factors of getting people? Why are people stopping and getting to a certain point and not going past it? And that's part of the data. The data will show those sticky spots if you're tracking it properly. What is the experience of walking into the building through the front door? What do you see? A lot of times, as you know, that's that law of familiarity. We become blind. To chips on the wall, things on the furniture, how the front office team greets us. As you mentioned, what is offered when they come into the practice? Is there a drink? Is there something that's just different that they don't typically get in another practice? Go through the paperwork, go through the entrance exam. I think letting a team member experience that and allowing the whole team to watch the experience, it changes the marketing's perspective of how they're marketing. It stimulates creativity and allows them to see some of these sticky points and remove those barriers. Is that's something you guys have done in your practice?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. The training is so critical. Too many offices get compliant. They're busy. They don't take the time to train. They don't take the time to walk through their own clinic. And like you said, we just get so used to seeing the same thing, we become blind to it. And so we don't make the necessary changes. But, taking somebody through that new patient experience, whether it's your own employee or bringing in a spouse or just getting some feedback so that they can kind of see, and then making sure that everybody knows their role, their part, and what each person is doing in that flow there. So, to me, it's one of the most important things. There's companies out there who specialize in external marketing, Facebook marketing, those things, and there's people that specialize in internal marketing. You and I have talked about this in the past. What would happen if with some of the clinics that we've talked to, if we just walked in today and dropped 100 new patients into their clinic? How many of those would actually process out and convert into a patient, because not many of us are ready to handle the flow. So we all want more new patients, but our employees aren't prepared to handle the new patients. And so we've got to look at the flow of that. We've got to prepare the team to handle it, and then turn on the flow. So as they flow in, we've got to be ready to process, and we've got to be ready to educate and sell. We've got to be able to then deliver the services that we're delivering. And if each team member doesn't understand their role in that process, you're going to crash the system, and you're going to have those ups and downs.
Yeah, that'd be like being a marathon runner and training for an 18-mile race versus versus those. That's still better than what I've done, but versus these marathon runners that go out and run 50-mile races, 100-mile races. Man, you complete a 100-mile race, you show up to run a marathon, and you're like, this is a breeze. And that's what I see, is these teams train far too little, slightly under their capacity. They train for under their capacity instead of training for over their capacity, so that at capacity they can be outstanding.
So you're saying the 12 miles that I did train for my marathon was
It's a good story. I mean, I wish I could have been there. Unfortunately, I was back in graduate school in those days, but I do enjoy those stories.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic topic today. And just summary here, guys, we talked about the ultimate customer experience. Help your patients sing your praises because you're so focused on the patient experience, and not just your new patients, the patient experience. We want this to be across the board, and that doesn't come without massive training. The Marriott Corporation exploded when they took outstanding white glove customer service systems and began applying it to mediocre hotels. And they took these mediocre hotels and dramatically grew their booking. And I know that's those of you who are listening who have DSOs or multi-location integrated practices, that's what you're striving for. And I heard something that was incredible. If you missed this on one of our past broadcasts, is that the single locations talk about the multi-locations being all about business and all about the numbers, but something that the multi-locations do far better than the single locations is that they have mandatory quarterly training for their teams on site. They come around and they make sure everything is up to quality. And so that's number one. Number two is understanding that connection between the marketing and the sales team, the exam and case acceptance team, bringing them together, training them together, being in each other's space, feeling each other's energy, and connecting that process for patients. That's also going to help, number one. Number three then is really understanding the balance between your external and internal marketing, and what are the numbers that need to drive the volume that your practice wants to be at, and then train for past that volume. Become more efficient than just the volume that you want. Those numbers will flow even more smoothly when you've trained for beyond your reach, just like a marathon runner training for far beyond the marathon distance. Scott, any closing remarks, any gems that you want to share before we sign off here?
Yeah, just real quickly, one of the things is really to kind of get a pulse where you're at. Listen to your patients. Train your front desk to listen to what the patients are saying. Our goal in our practice is patients after their first visit, when they're checking out at the front desk, is, most times they'll say something like, "Wow, I'm a mess," or "Wow, I had no idea," or "Wow, why doesn't everybody do this?" We hear that all the time, and my staff is trained to say, if the patient doesn't say it, how was your experience today? How'd things go today? And get that feedback from the patient. If they go, "That was fine," well, we didn't wow that patient. We didn't have an incredible experience with them. So train your front desk, train your staff to listen to what your patients are saying, and use that feedback. Find out what is being said about your practice from your patients and improve it. If I can recommend a book, is that okay? This is a great book.
Absolutely.
It's called Mastering the Rockefeller Experience. And I know you haven't, but it's What You Must Do to Increase the Value of Your Growing Firm. This is a phenomenal book on customer experience, how to train your team. and really, really give people that unbelievable experience. And you'll attract them. There's not a lack of patients that need our services. That's for sure. And so many of us are so competitive with each other. And there's a place right next door to us that might be doing the same thing. So make yourself something special, make yourself different, and attract over everybody else. There's a lot of people out there that need our services. A lot of it's headspace. Always starts there.
Love it. It's the Frogley Brothers coming to you live. Thank you for participating in our show today. Remember, we're here every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, Facebook Live in the blue, Tools of Scalability. We're here to help your practices boom. Thanks for joining us today.